The ideal team structure increases practice revenue and practice valuation. No one wants to buy your job, but many want to buy your business. The structure of your systems, plus processes, plus staff is the key to making your business profitable and desirable to someday sell. You need to know this formula. Hey everyone, welcome back to The Rare Advisor. What I want to get into today for you is the ideal team structure that will actually increase your practice revenue and increase the valuation of your business. It is important that you understand the mighty powerful role that your staff plays in the valuation of the greatest asset you own, the business you own, the most important thing in your portfolio, your financial advisory practice. And it is vastly important that you run it as a business, not as a sole proprietorship. Nobody wants to buy your job, but a lot of people would love to buy your business. So the beauty of this conversation is that what's good for the valuation of your business, the net worth side, the net worth page, if you will, is equally good, if not even more powerful, on the P&L side of your business, on the ability to generate revenue. So it's important that you understand smart decision-making with your P&L is in alignment and should be in alignment. In fact, in our business, it's super easily in alignment with the long-term value of your practice, the net worth statement that you're creating for yourself on the value of that business. Now, that is an upper hand advantage that we have in the financial services world because many businesses cannot lay claim to that. In other words, what's good for their P&L statement is not necessarily good for their balance sheet and vice versa. For us, it's almost always identical. Almost always the smartest P&L decision is the smartest balance sheet decision. The smartest balance sheet decision is the smartest P&L decision. But today I want to focus on your team. And what that means, I'm going to share a screen with you and pull some data together that'll give you some things to think about in this area. So here we go again. Obviously, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the ideal team structure that increases your practice revenue and the valuation of your practice. And this information is, again, coming out of some snippets of information from our Advisor Blue Book report. If you don't have this, if you would like this, just reach out to USA Financial, ask for one of our business development consultants, and reference the Advisor Blue Book. They can get you the whole thing. It's about 15, 20 pages long. I'm just going to extract 1 or 2 pages out of here for us to talk about on this one part of the subject line, this particular matter of the team and making sure that you're developing this the way you want. So in here, I'm just pulling out of pages 9, as you can see down here, 9 and 10 out of the 14 initial pages. There is some add-on information that takes it beyond that. But I've highlighted for us in blue the main up-down teeter-totter effects that I want to talk about today. So for everything that can elevate your business, there is kind of an opposite side of the coin that can devalue your business. And we walk through a whole slew of these inside of the Advisor Blue Book. I want to focus for you on these that I'm talking about because this is where the rubber hits the road in terms of your team. So first, let's just start up here in the upper left. You need to have a business that is built on systems and processes. If your business is built on your personality, it will get undervalued in the marketplace. Now, I would also argue you won't sell as much. You won't bring as many new clients to the firm. You won't grow as rapidly either if your business is built on personality. So this is like saying, do I want a sole proprietorship or do I actually want a business enterprise? If you're wanting a sole proprietorship and it's built simply on your personality, your networking ability, your glad handing, you're going to have a hard time bringing a team around you and turning that thing into a business. You have to think more in terms of an enterprise. So with the enterprise in thought, that means I need a business built on systems and processes. I need to be able to show an outside investor, someone who might want to buy my business someday, I need to be able to show them that I can push buttons and I can pull levers and I can predict the outcome that will then occur in my business. I know that if I do this type of marketing, if I run these type of events, be it digital or live or whatever the case might be, if I engage in these types of practices, then here's the type of lead generation that creates. Here's what my funnel looks like. Here's my step-by-step process. And here's how that results in people onboarding into the practice and bringing assets to the firm. If you can show how to push those buttons and flip those levers with systems and processes, the value of your business goes up. Good news, revenue goes up too, right? Because now you've got something that you can continually duplicate. You can churn out money from a business perspective. Now, how do you make that happen? Well, one of the first things you need to do to make that happen is you have to have proper branding. And what I would call, or what we would call, client experience branding, meaning that we're in the experience business. It's an intangible business. We don't have manufacturing plants. We don't have equipment. We don't have a bunch of inventory and raw materials. We're not assembling things put together where we can physically hand them an object at the end of the day. Basically, our entire business is a handshake, a promise, a piece of paper, right? So what we need to do is we need to bring that intangible environment into a tangible existence. We do that through the experience. You've probably heard of the experience economy, through the experience that we deliver to the client. We need them to submerge into it. So all of our systems have names. Everything comes to life. Our branding, our formulas, our processes, our systems, the things that we provide in terms of financial planning, all of these things need to become tangible. I have to have a menu, if you will. I want to have this stuff named and I want to have it all branded. So not only do I want to brand my practice, I want to brand my process. I want to brand all the items that are in my process, all the items that take place inside of the financial plan, all the different things that we look at. And again, we've got tool after tool after tool to help you do this at USA Financial. But generically, high altitude, wrap your mind around the fact that you have to get credit for the work you do. If you don't name it and bring it to life, you'll never get credit for it. It's that simple. Now, with that, we then need to be able to generate those leads. So we have to consistently be able to generate leads and new business. If we have an inconsistent flow, that will hurt us because, again, a sole proprietor tends to have an ebb and flow based on the personality, the skill, and the luck of the individual who's out there prospecting. But if I have a business, if I have systems and processes in play, excuse me, now I should be able to show consistency in my lead gen, in all the important leading indicators inside of my business. I should be able to show, again, if I push these buttons and I pull these levers, here's the kind of stuff that starts to happen. And lead gen is always super crucial. The reason it's so crucial in our industry is because our assets are the client relationships, right? So a manufacturer has their plant and their inventory and their equipment. Those are their assets. Our assets are actually the relationships we have with our clients and the assets that it represents based on their portfolios. So if we can show that we can grow in lead gen, what we're really showing is that we can grow the assets of our business, not to be confused with assets under management, which although it's very closely related, but the assets in a more kind of educational, like if you were taking a college course and they're talking in an accounting class about the growth of the assets or the return on the assets, they're talking about the physicality of it. We want the physicality of those relationships to be able to show that we can grow them. Then the next step is to show what that represents in terms of assets under management, in terms of commission revenue, in terms of fee revenue, recurring revenue versus non-recurring revenue, all these things. I'll have another talk with you about that someday, right? So consistent lead gen, because that then leads to consistent growth. As long as you know how to close the business and you have some rainmakers in your business, whether it's you and you've developed around yourself or whether it's multiples, if you have a consistent, steady growth that you can show, that is generally an end result of consistent, steady lead gen. So if I've got growth, now I don't want to be dependent just on market performance because, right, anybody can grow in an up market. But if I can continue to grow in a down market, that shows I'm actually running a quality business. So that becomes very important. So how do we do all this? Well, now this is where the people come in. The first thing is I would encourage you that you should own your own client relationships, meaning if the practice is working with that customer. Now, this generally is a statement for people who have more than one financial advisor in their practice, but the practice needs to own that customer relationship. So if you have sub-advisors or even if you have business partners, you don't necessarily want the advisor to own that relationship. You want the practice to own that relationship. So that if there is ever a separation, especially if it's an employee separation, your assets don't walk out the door with the employee that is departing. Maybe you fired them, maybe they're leaving on their own volition, whatever it might be, but the assets don't walk out the door. So, again, if you were a manufacturing plant, obviously the assets wouldn't walk out the door. Our only argument here would be you don't want the assets to walk out the door as an intangible business either. And then also you should have your employees signing either employee manuals if they're like administrative help and so on, or some sort of a contract if they're a sub-producer. And again, certain stipulations have to be there. You have industry trade secrets and those things need to be protected. Your clients need to be protected. Now, you can't generally really put strong non-competes in place. People want to try to say, oh, you can't ever do this kind of business inside of my geography and so on and so forth. That seldom holds much water in the long run in the legal court system and so on. But you can protect your clients. You can protect those assets of your practice. And so that is very, very important. Now, it's also important that we have to have professional staff, and we need to be properly and fully staffed. We can't be understaffed and underskilled. We have to have the right people on the bus, and then we have to have the right people in the right seats on the bus. So the easiest structure that you can think of in our industry is very similar to a law firm. I want to have a rainmaker, and then I want to build around that rainmaker. And then if and when it's time, if I've done all the development around my rainmaker where I'm maxing out that rainmaker's time, there's nothing else that are non-money-making activities that it would be smart for me to take off of their plate and put on other people's plates who are surrounding them, right? Like a doctor with nurses or like an attorney with support staff. If I can't maximize any more around that, now it's time to think about needing another rainmaker. I would argue you don't need a second rainmaker until the first rainmaker has been maxed out, until you've sliced and diced and taken things off their plate to focus them on what makes money so that now you can do that in each one of the equations around the table, identifying how those people bring the most value to the practice and then building out accordingly. Now I might need a sub-producer, or if I have other business partners or whatever. Once that maxes out, now maybe I need a second rainmaker and a third rainmaker and so on. But oftentimes, as you get bigger and more successful, you will do less of the service work. You will do less of the administrative work. You will do less of everything other than bringing new client relationships to the firm and or managing those client relationships with the firm. These are the things that you need to have focus on. And the reason this becomes such a heavy staff discussion is because you cannot focus on those things with the maximum amount of time and energy and effort unless you have the right people around you. And you have to have, in order to have the right people, now you need systems and processes. Once you get into systems and processes, now I need to show predictability out of these systems and processes. And now I need to have the right branding that fits around all this. So all of these things are they're puzzle pieces. They're small pieces to a much greater puzzle that just keeps getting built around your practice. So at the core is a rainmaker. If you are listening to this today and you're a sole proprietor and you're thinking, how in the world am I going to get there? You're a sole proprietor. You are the rainmaker in your practice. So once you make that first administrative hire, then maybe that marketing support hire or that customer service hire, as you make a couple of hires, that's freeing you up to focus more and more energy on the rainmaker activities, the things that generate revenue to your practice. And then you're building that. And before you know it, it's not uncommon to have one rainmaker being supported by a dozen, a half a dozen to a dozen different staff members to keep that juggernaut moving. Once you've enhanced that to the best possible way, now and only now is it time to bring on the next sub-producer. A lot of people do it all bass-backwards. They instead want to get sub-producers and they think they're going to just get a whole army of these people and that's going to solve their problems. And what happens is you just end up with a babysitting nightmare and it's horrible and you'll hate it. What you need to do is build around the success that you already own, the success that you have control of And then later we'll deal with the sub-producers because we have a model to work, and then we can duplicate that model time and time and time again. So it's, again, big puzzle, cool stuff, fun stuff, tons of information to think of as you get into this. If you want more on some of the topics I've hit here today, reach out to USA Financial. Again, just ask for a business development consultant and request the Advisor Blue Book report. So I hope you've loved this. Give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe, and I'll be back with you again soon. Thank you.